Erie. It's Monday, January 13th. Welcome back for another Flagship City Sports Talk brought to you by Quick Fill. Woo! What a game of playoffs. I love playoff season. My name is Nick Gartman. I'm joined. Well, no, we can actually talk about playoffs now. My name is Nick Gartman, and I'm joined by Mr. Clean, Paul Adams. Zach, PA, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well, man. Happy to be here on a Monday morning talking playoffs at all.
Listen, it's never a bad day in this room. And in the big chair, we got the great and powerful Rich Smith. Rich, what's up, buddy?
Not a whole lot. This was a great weekend for playoffs because the weather outside was frightful. I'm just saying.
And you would know because you were
camping.
Yes, yep, camping.
Out.
Yeah. Seriously, like I don't even love camping in the summer.
I love the outdoors.
I do too.
Don't mistake that. But right now, I don't know, man. You couldn't pay me to camp.
Oh, January 10th. Like how do you keep warm?
Lots and lots of layers.
I don't know. That's not enough for me. I'm tired of wearing boots. I need some warmer weather here coming soon. That's for sure.
Are we like 10 weeks away from spring? I think I saw that. The countdown has begun.
I like it. We got a lot to get to today, obviously, as we always do. We're going to hit our D10 Players of the Week. We have Shawn Bednard coming in here in a little bit, too, talking about the Connor McDavid retirement party. That makes it sound like he retired.
Yeah.
The Jersey retirement party. Let me walk that back a little bit before we make headlines. Later in the show, we're going to be talking Steelers offseason plans and then, of course, Overreaction Monday. So let's go ahead and get into the North Shore Rewind brought to you by Duska's Funeral Home. All right, let's kick it off with our D10 Players of the Week. We have so many high school sports going on, and if you haven't caught back up, I get it. You have the holiday hangover. The school's been out for a while. We've had
probably been shoveling for a couple of weeks straight.
Oh, gosh, I'm so tired. My sidebar, this is the worst time my snowblower broke. And you think,
really?
I'm not shoveling my driveway. No way. No. So now I'm just like, I've hit the point where our driveway, and we're in Edinburgh, so we get like 1.5 feet of snow, 2 feet of snow, right? So now it's just like, okay, is anybody coming down the road? Gun it. Like just try, because it's not the driveway that sucks, it's the plow ice that comes in at the end of the drive. Yeah, that's anyway, sorry. This is what this is gonna be this kind of show today. I'm just warning everybody that's listening. Yeah, absolutely. I'm gonna just turn this way so I don't see out the window. That's because that'll be awful. Anyway, back on track. There's a lot of great sports action happening here in County, whether you are a basketball fan, a wrestling fan. We're even going to talk a little bit of bowling today. So we got a lot to cover, a wide spectrum of games to cover. Paul, let's go to you first. Who is your one of your D10 Players of the Week this week?
Well, I think we have to start off with the big game from last week.
Yes.
Cathedral Prep McDowell. It's got to be Stephen Porter. He was the Trojans' leading scorer, had 27 points in their epic 82-76 triple overtime victory against heated rival Cathedral Prep Ramblers last Wednesday at Paul Gall Gymnasium over in Mill Creek. What a performance by Porter and his team. Not just in regulation, not just in the first overtime, not just in the second overtime, but to put forth that effort for 4 quarters plus 3 more, essentially. Yeah. It's an unbelievable effort, a great team win. Obviously, it feels good to win any game, but it feels just a little bit better to beat your rival, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And a rival that's that big,
at that level.
That rivalry is that big. I was looking for this. I thought we'd never have the chance to play this again, but Stefan Baby Porter. Oh, is it not going to play?
Uh-oh.
Bring that back any chance I can because I took the time to cut it. But no, this game was huge. Everybody was talking about this game, right? I think I saw McDowell Athletics put on X, like a week before the game. Hey, tickets are almost sold out. Buy these tickets. And it doesn't matter if you have like a son playing in this game or you're related to one of the coaches. If you are a former McDowell alum or current student, or same thing with Cathedral Prep, you were going to this game, and man, did it not disappoint. We did our live show for Gem City Sports, and if you haven't been following along, you can follow along at Gem City SN, Gem City Sports Network. We were our live show was going on during the game, and I was so distracted. I'm like refreshing Twitter over and over again, checking out all the guys that were at the game, just kind of pulling up. And then when it went to triple overtime, man, you couldn't ask for a better ending than that.
No, what a performance. Really both sides. I mean, you have to congratulate the Ramblers for, 4 quarters and 2 overtimes of excellence. Just came up a little bit short in that third overtime. They play again over this time at Cathedral Prep.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
that should be another wild one.
And Porter came up big. I mean, he only had 6 from the paint. He was 15 of 22 at the free throw line, but it seemed like when they needed 2 points to tie it and go into overtime, or needed 2 points at the end of the game, he was there just, getting into range of being able to put up a point.
And we talk about, this is a sports show, so we have like stats. Here's the stats. But you watch the game, I mean, you talk about ball distribution, which doesn't show up in the stats, defense, which doesn't show up in the stats, not turning it over, which technically does show up, but it shows a 0. So a guy that Coach O'Connor can confidently run the offense through, put the ball in his hands, allow him to create, have the confidence that he's not going to turn it over. He can take away the number 1 player on the other team. He's just a great option to have at both ends of the court.
Yeah, absolutely. All right,
physical presence.
Yep, 100%. They're and McDowell's 11-2, 1-0 in league play, so they're going to just keep rolling, I think. Let me give you mine. Mine is Libby Opp from General McLean. Opp became the 11th player in team history to surpass 1,000 career points during a 47-32 victory over Corey. She led the Lancers with a team-high 15 points again in their 52-36 win over Titusville on Saturday. We say this every year. Anytime you can hit 1,000 career points or 100 wins in wrestling, we're going to mention you, right? Libby against Corey had 3 field goals, including 2 3-pointers. She was 6 for 6 at the free throw line. And then Titusville, she had another 2 3-pointers, 3 for 4 at the free throw line.
Ho-hum.
Yeah, GM is 7-4 overall and 1-0 in league play. I expect them to kind of turn it around and have a really strong second half of the season. All right, Paul, you ready for a 2-minute drill?
I got like 9 minutes worth of 2-minute drill. Let's do it.
Let's just put this on 2.5 speed.
All right, at the Midwinter Mayhem, Corey's Finley Forspring won the 106-pound girls title, helping Corey to a third-place finish with 97 team points. McDowell's Denari Mickle was the top local boys finisher, taking second at 189 pounds. District 10 teams earned 24 total medals with strong showings from General McLean and Sagertown as we near the postseason. To college, Edinboro women's basketball, big upset over number 9 Gannon, 62-45, holding the Golden Knights to 27% shooting. Haley Sims led the Scots with 22 points and 8 rebounds, while Ava Haddad added 10 boards and 8 points. Edinboro dominated the glass 53-32, went 20 of 22 from the charity stripe, and earned their first victory over Gannon since 2020. Wow, it's 5 years, guys. Gannon men's basketball staged a massive comeback, same afternoon, outscoring Edinboro 30-1 in the final 7 minutes to win 100-84 out at Macomb. Ernest Shelton led Gannon with 21 points, including 15 for 15 from the line. Gannon improved to 14-2 overall, 9-0 in PSAC play, marking their 14th straight win. We'll stick with Gannon. The men's wrestling team improved to 4-3 and 2-0 in PSAC play with a dominant 37-3 victory over Seton Hill over the weekend. Golden Knights earned bonus points in 5 matches, highlighted by Dorian Crosby's 26-second pin at heavyweight. Let's go up to the hill. The Mercyhurst women's hockey team defeated Syracuse 4-2, improving to 11-11-1 overall and 6-4 in AHA play. They've now won 4 straight. Julia Shalin and Sophia Newtonen each scored twice in that one. How about this, guys? Cathedral Prep head football coach Mike Cray has resigned after leading the team to a 22-11 record over 3 seasons, citing challenges balancing his business and coaching duties. Maplewood and Northwestern also seeking new head coaches. Can I do one more?
Go for it.
Former Cathedral Prep and Penn State graduate Frederick Juice Scruggs started at right guard and played a pivotal role in the Houston Texans' 32-12 shellacking of the LA Chargers in the wild card round on Saturday. Scruggs helped pave the way for 168 team rushing yards, including 106 yards and a nail in the coffin late touchdown by running back Joe Mixon in the waning minutes.
Do you think you're going to see that more and more? I mean, I feel like the head coach of a football team just gets to be a more and more complicated job.
It absolutely is. We could do an entire segment on the challenges of being a head coach at the high school level nowadays.
Yeah. And it's not like
burnout is real.
And it's not like that's your only full-time job.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah. I don't know. All right, that was the North Shore Rewind brought to you by Duskus Funeral Home. When we get back, we're talking with Shawn Bednard about the milestone event at the EIA last Friday. You're listening to Flagship City Sports Talk, brought to you by Quick Fill.
Michaela Presser-Palmer is now second in scoring. There's a ton.
Yeah. I mean, Keegan Oler and Cyrus Hurd both had 100th victories in wrestling. And then Taylor Kretz of McDowell, bowled a 246 as part of our 687. We could have went on and on and on. I mean, I think we need a 3-minute drill. I'm just kidding. Probably Paul's eyes just glazed over because his prep gets a little crazy. Anyway, moving on. We welcome back to the studio Shawn Bednard of the Erie Otters. Shawn, how you doing, buddy?
I'm great. It's nice to be on the other side of the crazy weekend, but I've made too many comparisons to my wedding day that it's starting to concern my coworkers. It's like it's preparation, months and months of anticipation, and then the day gets there and then you're freaking out and then you blink and it's over and you're like, wait a minute, what happened? And then there's a ring on your hand. Not this time, luckily, or else, Connor McDavid's agent might have a few words to say with me. But
I'm not worried about what your coworkers are saying. What is your wife saying about the comparison?
She was like, that's pretty accurate. So
okay, good.
She understands it. Even the coworkers are like, what are you talking about? Like, if I was saying that to my wife, I'd be sleeping outside. I'm like, I was pretty patient.
You got a good one. So let's talk about Friday, right? 97 forever. Last Friday, the Otters welcomed back NHL superstar Connor McDavid for his jersey retirement night. How special was Friday night for number 97 in the Otters organization?
I could say a lot of words right now, but I don't even think it's fully set in how special it was.
Yeah.
I mean, the game's been sold out for months, The NHL was there. Oilers Entertainment Group was there. Sportsnet, TSN, bunch of bigwigs, right? And most importantly, Connor McDavid was there in the middle of a terrible road stretch. Like, you go to Boston, you go to Pittsburgh, and you go to Chicago. Not terrible in terms of the cities you're going to, but terrible in terms of you're going to a lot of different cities on a long trip. And, we get small trips here, go to Sault Ste. Marie on a weekend is exhausting enough, let alone the air miles on that. But so for him to come on out in the middle of, this long road trip. And I think more importantly, like when you get jersey retirements, sometimes it's either, especially at this level, it's either right after the player's junior career comes to an end. So it's more immediate before they're at that superstar status, or it's after they retire from the NHL.
Right.
To have it, this guy just went to Game 7 of the Stanley Cup final.
Peak of his career.
Won the Conn Smythe Trophy, which it's almost rarer than winning the Stanley Cup in itself. In the prime of his career, he comes back to where it all started and sees his jersey go up. I mean, that just makes it even more special. So, I don't know if there's words to truly describe how special it was yet. I hope I'll find him someday, but all I know is that I'll cherish just being able to be the smallest and least significant part of such a special day.
Well, you mentioned the planning, and that's kind of where I wanted to go with this. Is like, what goes into an event like this? How do you maybe plan for an event like this? Like, how far in advance are you planning it? Or maybe let me just do this. How does a team decide to retire a number like this?
Thankfully, some of those decisions are above my pay grade in my head, but I can tell you that our general manager, Dave Brown, who he's a busy man between the recruiting trail, which we'll talk about, and getting players here, scouting, and of course, business operations. He has his plate full. But from what we'd been told, it's been about 2.5 years in the making of trying to make this happen. And, I think it gets a little easier in the planning process when you have someone who is such an iconic superstar. But jersey retirement is something that's sacred, and it should be. I mean, there's only 2 players previous to McDavid who'd ever been retired. And that was the captain of our first championship team, and Brad Boyes, and Vince Scott, who had a great career and unfortunately suffered a tragic early death in 2010. So, you have to really know what you're doing and the reason that you're doing it. And so for us, it was something we didn't take lightly. It was something that when the news came to us that, hey, this is maybe the only time that we can do this in the next couple of years. Because the schedule aligns that perfectly. It was immediately like, all right, how can we make this the best possible event ever? So it was all hands on deck, from merchandising and making sure that, we have the best stuff possible, to the marketing side of making sure that we handle this in an appropriate way. When do you announce this? How do you announce this? What's the process of announcing this? And then, of course, just in the activation side, making sure that the whole day itself, I talked about it before. He got into town late because they had a game in Pittsburgh the night before. He had to leave town early because they had a game in Chicago the next day. So how do you make sure to squeeze as much juice out of this as possible,
that window
for the day, but also recognizing this is a busy man, this is a busy day, this is a human, and he's probably exhausted. He played 30 minutes on the ice the night before, was responsible for all 3 of the points on all 3 of the goals that they had. So there's so many things. It's like the game within the game before the game even begins. So, to be able to get for our organization to have such a big part in the planning and the working alongside his agents and the NHL and the OHL and so many figures in making it happen was, again, we have a small staff. So every single person had such a major influence on the night.
Are you able to share, like what was his reaction whenever you let him or, his team know?
He was fired up, you know. I think some people get this misconception that just because he takes what he does so seriously that, he's emotionless or he's a robot. But I can tell you that's the farthest thing from the truth.
Awesome. It
seemed like every single thing that happened on Friday night was almost a surprise to him. Like he didn't even know he was Connor McDavid. Like he couldn't believe that, there was 6,700 people in the building screaming every time his name was mentioned or that his jersey was going up or that people wanted to hear him speak. It was like it was all a shock and new to him. So I know this meant the world to him. I know for him to have his whole family out there meant so much to him. I know that, for him to come back home to the place where really, he went from Connor McDavid, the prospect, to Connor McDavid, the hockey superstar happened. It meant everything to him. And it was evident. He was so gracious with his time. He dedicated every minute that he could be there to making sure that he was as much of an asset and a resource and ambassador for, the Erie Otters and the Ontario Hockey League as he could be for Connor McDavid. And, today's his birthday. So what a nice way to be able to start off the week. And then
he's had a good start to the year.
Yeah, I would say so. And then on Wednesday, this coming Wednesday, he is the naming rights of the newest top prospects game in the Ontario Hockey League, the Connor McDavid OHL top prospects game, which is taking place in the middle of maybe one of the best weeks of his life outside of when he finally does win the Stanley Cup. So pretty incredible to have all these things happen in 1 week. And, I can't say enough on behalf of the Otters in him and his team and everyone involved from the Oilers, from the NHL in making sure that this could happen the way it did.
Yeah, no, and kudos to you and you guys, you and the team to just put that all together. It was so much fun to watch from afar. I mean, his locker room pregame speech was like, it got me fired up, so it was cool to see him back and just see everything that was going on. It was, I mean, you can't say it wasn't well-deserved, right? Yeah. So let's looking back now, let's kind of look forward, right? Unfortunately, the Otters are 1-5 since starting the new year. What do we need? What's the spark that needs to happen to maybe turn this around as we cut through the second half of the season?
I think you take a silver lining out of everything. And I think fortunately or unfortunately, losing to the teams that you did this weekend's a wake-up call.
Yeah.
And, you get a long time away from home now. And you only won. We haven't won on home ice yet. You mentioned it. You only have the one game so far that you've won, and that was in Guelph, which is the worst placed team in the Western Conference. And you had to go to overtime to get it done. And I think this team had everything happening for them when they were going into the new year. Back-to-back wins, some good ones too, taking down Brantford on home ice, which is a really solid team in the Eastern Conference. And then you come home and 3 games in a row, you're not able to get the job done. So, I think it is a wake-up call. And I think now that you get a big road trip, 3-3 out east and in some winnable games, this is really a time where it's looking in the mirror and it's a reflection of who are we? You go 0 for 11 on home ice on the power play. You take on a team in Saginaw who they're good. They're the defending Memorial Cup champions, but they're also sellers. They were sellers at the deadline. They sold off big pieces because they're building for the future. And they come into your barn and they take care of business the way they do. And then Sarnia, who, they have a great coach now in Letang, but they're also a team who it's not their year. It's a few years down the road before they're one of those teams that people are talking about as a contender. Yeah. And they come into your barn and they beat you by 4 goals. Yeah. So, I think a lot of players on this team are going to take a long look in the mirror before this weekend's games out east and long road trip and knowing they're going into hostile barns every night and saying, hey, we just got jumped for the first time from 4th place to 5th place. We've been pretty comfortable in that spot. And if the playoffs started today, as the old adage always goes, now we would not be home ice advantage. And the bare minimum of our expectation this season as players, as coaches, and as a staff is to finish top 4. 5th is where we finished last season. Right. And if you're telling me that this team it should be at the same trajectory last season for this season, then there's a lot of things that have to be discussed. So, luckily I trust every single coach in that room. They're the right men for the job. And they're going to get the best out of their players. And I think it's going to be a pretty intense week of practice. They don't leave until Thursday for the road trip. And luckily 2 of our premier players in Malcolm Spence and Sam Alfano get to be part of that top prospects game on Wednesday. So I imagine they're going to be fired up coming back and getting to playing real hockey and, getting to know they were among the best of the best in the league. So I don't think this 1-5 start is going to be the way that things finish. And I think that thankfully this is a wake up call. You're halfway through the season. You got to be better.
Yeah. Well, and I'm not trying to doom and gloom either because, the Otters are still 19-14-3. One shutout loss as well. So you're still sitting third in the Midwest Division at 42 points. It's not like we're ready to throw in the towel.
Right.
There's a lot of hockey to be played left and a lot of things that can still go right for the Otters. And I think some of the struggles come from, we kind of alluded to the roster construction and things like that. So I want to take a break here, but I want to get into that. Are you able to stick around for a little bit and kind of talk about that? Awesome. Because I think it's been a weird year in the OHL, considering all the new changes. You have the college rules, you had, you just talked about the prospects game, you got championships happening all over the place. So I kind of want to get into that and the impact that might have when we get back. Before we take our break, though, I want to take a second and thank all of our sponsors: Quick Fill, Duskus Funeral Home, Dauber Auto Supply, John's Wildwood Pizza, Denny's Sales and Service. Without them, we wouldn't be here for you. When we get back, we're going to keep talking with Shawn Bednard of the Erie Otters, kind of figuring out, where do we go from here? You're listening to Flagship City Sports Talk, brought to you by Quick Fill. Brought to you by Quick Fill. Shawn Bednard from the Erie Otters still hanging out with us this morning. Thank you for coming in.
It's a pleasure to be here.
It's nice to have somebody in studio too. A lot of times we have those phone guests, but it's nice whenever you're able to come in. Though Shawn really shows like how bad our hair game is.
Yeah, that's why I was late. Actually, it was just finishing up the hair.
I wouldn't know. But we're having some great hockey talk this morning. We got a chance to talk about 97's retirement that happened on Friday. If you missed that, make sure you check out the podcast. You can follow up and catch up on any of the Gem City Sports Network and Flagship City Sports Talk shows. That was a mouthful. There was a lot of city. And for the record, crushed it. So we talked about the past. We're looking into moving forward. And Paul, I know you had a question on roster construction.
Well, I do. Can I lead with this one though? This is less mechanical. How long did it take to put a T-shirt on every seat in the arena?
It's tough to say. Okay, so our digital marketing manager, Hallie, God bless her, she got in at 5:30 to start. And
AM?
Okay. Yeah, 5:30. If it was 5:30,
I was gonna say, you did an hour and a half.
She got in at 5:30 because, simply put, she couldn't sleep. She was so excited.
Yeah.
So she got, by the time I got in, probably about 8:30, she had section 201 and 202 done, which doing that solo, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, no doubt.
And then my wife was helping fill in because she used to work for the team store, and then now she's playing mom, which is a fun role too. Yeah. She came in to help support our team store. Team store was ahead of the game, so she went out there to help about 9:00. Probably like 9:20, and then the rest of our staff was scheduled to start at 10 o'clock. Mm-hmm. And I think once we got the full, whole kit and caboodle out there, I think we were probably done about 11:58. So
that's pretty good.
We're talking about probably 15, 16 people out there. Between our coaches were out there, we had game day staff out there, our full team. Some of my interns are out there, so it's like
we're talking like 40 man hours.
That's definitely intern work.
It was, it comes for y'all. It humbles y'all. So there was different strategies. I was the one who was just, pick it up and put, the whole shirt design over the seat, make sure it's done. For some of them, it was sling the shirt on the seat. So then you have the shirt on the seat. So then when someone else comes by, they can fold it and look it over.
Like assembly line.
And then that was quicker. Exactly. Because then the t-shirts are already on the seats. So, now we're becoming experts on this. So the next time we do this, we're going to try and do it an hour and a half instead of 2 hours.
I love it. A little behind the curtain. Okay. All right. Back to real hockey talk. I have the rule here. Players may now participate in the CHL, which includes the OHL, prior to initial full-time collegiate enrollment and not jeopardize their NCAA Division I eligibility. So
what?
that's the rule. So how do guys like Callum Hughes and Quinn McCall figure into this roster, and what does it mean for the future of Otters roster construction? And here's my little take on it. It almost feels like the NCAA, like basketball, one and done, where it's short-term success, let's win right now, but kind of almost hinders the long-term construction. How does Erie figure to play in that? Are they more active than other teams? Because I follow the Otters, and it seems like every week they're bringing somebody else in, which is exciting. Yeah, but I don't know. There's a balance, I'm sure.
The rule change itself was discussed for probably about the better part of the last year, since the NIL really kicked in the NCAA. So it was like, okay, well, the reason that CHL players can't play in the NCAA is because they're considered professional athletes.
Right, they get paid, correct.
They get an educational stipend, which in Canada makes them amateurs, in America makes them professionals. When they're really neither. They're somewhere in between.
Somewhere in between, sure.
So I think what's good is this new rule from the NCAA kind of evens the playing field, where it's like, okay, we recognize that our players are less amateur now than CHL players, because you have college football players making more money than I could ever hope to see in my life. So with this rule change, some people call it a rule change. Some people call it kind of almost like I don't know, a concession.
An adaptation? Yeah, a concession. I like that.
So I think what's good is our coaching staff, especially our head coach, Stan Butler, he's been around the CHL for 30 years roughly, and his coaching tree extends from players who became coaches in the NCAA and coaches who are coaching in junior B or junior A in the United States or in Canada. So for him, he's got all these connections. So when it comes to talking to players who are playing in the BCHL or the USHL, who they went that route because they want to go to college, so they never ever considered the OHL, because we'll talk about Quinn Hughes specifically, or Callum Hughes, excuse me. When we talk about him, for him, he comes from a long line of collegiate hockey players. So for him, it was always college. He never ever thought about the OHL ever, because his entire family had always been college hockey players. And then when this opportunity comes up, he's living way out west in the BCHL. Opportunity comes up where it's you get to go to a higher level league with, more scouts, better attendance, better players who you're playing against every single game night. That's advantage 1. 2, you go from about a, 9-10 hour flight home to about an 8-hour drive home to get back to Massachusetts. That's an advantage in its own right. Sure. Especially he came on right before the holiday break. And when you're, it's so much easier for your parents to come to games, for you to get back home. Those things mean something. And then most importantly, again, it goes back to the skill level that the OHL has. So it's going to be interesting to see really how things shake out. You mentioned it could be a one and done kind of thing, but I view it as, now it's, do the NCAA prospects, guys who are going to Boston University, who are going to Michigan, who are going to Union, are they going to spend their 16, 17-year-old seasons in the OHL because they don't want to play, in high school hockey, junior hockey at the lower level, and then, play this high-level hockey and make the jump to the NCAA? Certainly could be the case. Or you're going to have guys who are playing at, Mercyhurst or Canisius or, some of these, not the typical powerhouse schools in NCAA hockey, and say, this was nice. I feel like I might be, better than the station that I'm playing at right now, and try and make the jump into the OHL. So we're either going to see a big youth movement or a big movement of guys who are kind of, on the older side for the NCAA side, try and play in their 19, 20-year-old seasons there. So it'll be interesting to see. And I think what's good is the connections that our team has. They're making those calls where it's like, hey, you have a superstar who is playing in a junior league that is below ours. We'd love to bring them aboard. And I think, Garrett Fraser is another one who came by. Okay. Muskegon Lumberjack, who we signed on Friday, kind of got lost in the whole confusion of everything, but made an immediate impact. And, I think for him, it's the same way. The USHL is a great league, but it's not up to the par of the OHL. And I think now with the new ruling, it likely never will be. I think what's interesting about this rule change is the OHL and the CHL by large and the NCAA become the two entities for junior hockey. Sure. And the rest fall in line. I mean, I don't know how this is going to affect the USHL. The whole thing that they had as the USA Hockey over Hockey Canada was our players can play high level hockey and still go to college. Yeah. They don't have that anymore. And that's your whole pitch. That's the whole sales thing that you have. And now it's, do you want to go play in front of 10,000 people in London on a Friday night? Do you want to go to a historic barn like Kitchener? Do you want to play in Erie where Connor McDavid, Ryan O'Reilly, Alex DeBrincat, Dylan Strome played? Or do you want to go to, somewhere else where you might not get that same kind of level of playing opportunity? So as someone speaking from an OHL perspective, I'm fired up. I mean, this rule change opens all the floodgates. Yeah. And now it's, I'm not privy to everything. I hear the same thing that everyone else does, but now it's the teams in Muskegon and the teams in Youngstown who are like, well, what the heck? Like if the OHL is open up for players who we used to take, we want to join the OHL. Right. And, there's the rumor mills out there that apparently USA Hockey, blocked that passage in. I'm not sure of all the legality besides that. I just say, as someone who's from Michigan, let's definitely get Muskegon in the league. And as someone who lives in Erie, let's get Youngstown in the league. Sure. But, it's exciting. If you're a fan of the Ontario Hockey League and the Canadian Hockey League and just high level junior hockey, I mean, the floodgates have really opened now. And now that's why you're going to see guys like Quinn McCall, who's going to the College of the Holy Cross, and Callum Hughes is going to Boston University, and Jack Pridham, who's killing it in Kitchener, who's going to Boston University, is going to be Callum Hughes' roommate when they go to Boston University. Fun. I mean, these guys are just, they are lighting the world on fire, and they, didn't get the opportunity to foster their talents at this level, but now going forward, they always will.
Great opportunity for the players for sure. Sort of from your inside perspective on the spectrum of conservative to aggressive, how do you think the Erie Otters have been with the rule change?
I think they've been probably moderate for what they could be, but I think it's going to get aggressive. I think, it's almost a thing of like, it's free, it's free recruiting where it's like, we don't have to give up picks to get these guys. We don't have to take draft capital. We don't have to move players. We just have to get them reinstated through Hockey Canada. And
there's like no dollar figure where the billionaire is going to win. He's going to get all the right guys because there's a maximum sort of cap as to how much you're allowed to stipend to them, correct?
Yeah. Okay. It's basically just, do you want to play in London? Do you want to play in Owen Sound? Do you want to play in Erie? What's your connection there? Why do you want to go there? And let's bring you here. So for us, being an American market along, I-90, that's helped a lot. Being the alumni that we have, the coaching staff, the brass that we have, it's all helped a lot. So
Erie has like this Otters radio show where we can bring that in and kind of raise your national profile as a radio guy. Yeah,
that just other places don't.
Exactly.
So I think this offseason, it's going to get aggressive, and I'm excited to see it because once we get that first guy who's going to the University of Michigan, that's going to be back in my hometown. It's going to be exciting to see just how many guys from the NCAA, because it's going to make, I almost think that they will, it will start to normalize in the future where there might be like a draft for players who are coming from, non-Hockey Canada leagues and their college prospects where, kind of normalize the playing field. But for right now, it's the Wild West.
Yeah. I think it's going to make it interesting, right? And I even think the NIL deals and it's going to be crazy. Shawn, thank you so much for coming in and hanging out with us this morning. It was such a cool thing to have watched McDavid here and then, being able to see what happened Friday night and stuff like that. I mean, it couldn't have happened to a better player. And it's really cool to see the team supporting that as well. So
thanks for having us as always. And thanks for your support. And, before I go, I just want to say a big congratulations to friend of the show, Isaac Petcash, for, starting his role with Gannon University. Yeah. He's been a great supporter of Otters hockey since he got here. And, excited to see good people in good positions.
We just need to get him to stop slacking on Monday mornings.
I've been saying this.
Speaking of, we got to take a break. When we get back, we've got some Overreaction Monday for you. You're listening to Flagship City Sports Talk, brought to you by Quick Fill. Welcome back.
Boy, that was fun.
Oh my gosh. I could talk to that guy forever.
Yeah.
You're listening to Flagship City Sports Talk, brought to you by Quick Fill. I never even thought about the NIL impact of the college thing. I'm going to be honest with you. I probably should. Okay, I'm a host of a sports talk show. I probably should have thought about that. But I guess I still only think of NIL as like college football. And I never even thought about how that trickles down to something like this. Like that's going to make this team.
Yeah, that's not like an OHL rule that I read. That's an NCAA rule. So that opens things up. But boy, that's Wild West. I think he hit the nail on the head with that comment, because there's really like there's going to be people who find a way to take advantage of it,
100%.
and we just haven't done it yet. So there's no rule against specifically how they do it yet.
Yeah, and I was worried it was going to go the other way. Like college teams were going to be buying, so you got, a Terrence, a Femus, whoever's eligible.
Femus, right? He signed with the University of Notre Dame now. Yeah. After that rule came out, so it's working
crazy.
Both ways.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. I think it's going to make roster construction. Like you couldn't pay me enough to be an OHL GM right now.
That'd be a job.
Speaking of jobs, let's
that was a great transition, by the way. I know what's coming. Slow clap on that one.
Let's get into Overreaction Monday.
Let the floodgates open.
Noises!
Let's let the floodgates open. All right. Is our first Overreaction Monday for today, and I can't go anywhere else. Following the loss to the Ravens, Pittsburgh loses 28-14 on Saturday night at M&T Bank Stadium. Their 6th consecutive playoff loss and one and done for the 8th time under Tomlin. This leads to the Steelers will fire head coach Mike Tomlin.
So I've said on this show that it would be wild dumb to get rid of Tomlin. His job is safe. He's one of the best coaches in the league. I don't know if you watched that HBO Max show. They followed the AFC North around.
Yeah.
Tomlin's a dude.
Yeah.
He's a leader of men.
Yep.
But after that game Saturday night, I always thought Tomlin was less an X's and O's guy. Now, he was a defensive coordinator for Minnesota before he came over. So he's a defensive guy. Obviously, very smart football guy. But like less X's and O's, and he was always more like the motivator. He knew what buttons to press, what levers to pull in order to get guys to be maybe better than they are, right?
Yep.
And he's done that for years. But how flat the Pittsburgh Steelers came out in that first half and how poorly they played. I'm not just going to say down the stretch. I'm saying Saturday night in the playoffs against a division rival. How poorly they played, I don't know. I don't think you can fire the guy, but I don't think it's an overreaction to say that Tomlin should coach elsewhere in 2025.
Yeah, it's...
And I completely changed my stance from a week ago. And we talked about this on the show in the last couple of months.
Oh, we've talked about it since last summer.
Yeah. I said, no, Tomlin's great. Stop it. You have no idea how good you have it.
Yeah.
Boy, I don't know. We talked about it a little bit before the show. Almost feels like an Andy Reid thing where the message has kind of gotten stale and he just needs a change of environment, not just for Pittsburgh, but for maybe Tomlin himself.
Yeah.
So I don't know if there's going to be some sort of mutual breakup. I don't think the Rooneys outright fire him.
Sure.
There's no Black Monday for Mike Tomlin and his staff.
No.
But if there's some sort of mutual agreement, and yeah, you might as well.
All right,
but he's got a no trade clause, so they're not going to trade him for draft picks to go elsewhere.
Yeah.
I think Mike Tomlin should be able to resign in a dignified manner and be able to maybe Mike Vrabel kind of take the year off, find another spot down the road.
Yeah. I think I've had trouble trying to figure this out because on one hand, I'm like, who's better? Like, who are you gonna go out?
Exactly. That's been my point for months.
Right. And I get it. You don't know. You could go, find a Kevin O'Connell from Minnesota, but like the chances of finding a guy like that are less likely than finding a guy or not finding a guy.
We see teams try every year.
And so I'm like, well, what do you do? And I've been trying to figure out how to like express this, and I've never been able to figure it out. During the game Saturday night, Bill Crawford, who's on the DVE morning show, WDVE out of Pittsburgh, tweeted this out. And I think this is like what fully encompasses how I feel. All right. He said, quote, been saying it for years. It's not that fans don't appreciate the streak of non-losing seasons. That's a really high floor. Like that's, end quote. But that's a really high floor, which is great. Most teams would love to have winning seasons.
Right.
But it's the floor that's become the ceiling, right? So we have such a high floor in Pittsburgh right now, but where is that ceiling? That streak hasn't, he goes on to say, that streak hasn't led to postseason success. We don't put up winning season banners and glass cases at the stadium. Tomlin has been head coach of the Steelers for 18 years. He signed a 3-year extension before the season that keeps him through the team to at least 2027. So again, unlikely to be let go. Mm-hmm. He's the longest tenured coach in the NFL and believed to earn approximately about $15 million annually. Per Jerry Dulac of the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, the Pittsburgh Steelers do not have any plans to part way with Mike Tomlin, despite a 6th consecutive playoff loss. And Dulac he's one of the best. Dulac pulls a lot of these stats, and I want to read them off because they were I don't know what you want to call it. To me, they were just mind-blowing. It was the first time a Mike Tomlin coached team ended the season with 5 consecutive losses. Not good. They failed to score more than 17 points in each of their last 5 games, a feat not seen since Chuck Noll's first season in 1969. The Ravens set a franchise record against them with 299 rushing yards, surpassing the previous record of 232 allowed by the Raiders in 1972. Over their past 5 playoff appearances, the Steelers have averaged 38.8 points allowed per game and have been outscored 63-0. They're now tied. This is for you, Paul. They're now tied with the Miami Dolphins for the longest active postseason losing streak in 6 games.
Not great, Bob.
So a lot of the hate out there right now on Tomlin is all about the offense, but the defense has been just as bad. After allowing an average of 14.8 points and 306 yards in the first 8 games, they've allowed 25.6 points and 353 yards in the last 10. So it's not just the offense. The defense is going down.
You invoke the misery of the Miami Dolphins in that answer there, and I just want to try to make you guys feel better just for a moment. Yeah, 6 straight playoff losses, but you've won a Super Bowl more recently than the Dolphins have won a playoff game.
Yeah.
So I just kind of perspective.
Well, and I think that's where I'm at. It's like, okay, I like the high floor. So I think one of 2 things needs to happen. I think one, okay, a la Andy Reid, he's a great coach. You got to find something else. Something else needs to work. It may go poorly. It may go great. But if you do end up keeping him, this team badly needs a major philosophy change on offense and defense. The unfortunate part is that's unlikely to come with Tomlin as the head coach. It hasn't happened yet. It's hard to say that it's going to happen moving forward. And here's the perfect example. I watched that game on Saturday. It was like playing your younger brother in Madden, and all they did was run a run-pass option. They had 2 tight ends the whole time. Zay Flowers was out, so you keep Mark Andrews and Likely in the whole time. And all it was Lamar going, I'm either going to hand this off to Derrick Henry or I'm going to go. And that was every play.
It was like watching Penn State's offense.
Over and over and over again. And there was never an adjustment. This Tomlin idea of like, we are going to impose our will and we're going to force you to lose, doesn't work in today's NFL, because as soon as you try to do that, the other team switches their strategy and end up winning the game. So that's where I'm at. You either there needs to be a sweeping change. You either need to let them go, or you need to impose some sort of major philosophy change on both sides of the ball.
They just did sweeping change. I mean,
yep.
New defensive coordinator 2 years ago, new offensive coordinator, 3 in the last 2 years, technically, because Canada got fired.
But let's be honest, Terrell Austin is just, he's doing whatever Tomlin tells him to do as defensive coordinator.
I was going to say, Tomlin's the de facto DC, right? Yeah. So he's going to run that defense. Yeah. I don't know, man. It's tough to win without a good quarterback. When they had a Hall of Famer under center, boy, were the Steelers good. Yeah. And now that they've gone through Kenny Pickett, Justin Fields, a back half of his career, back eighth of his career, Russell Wilson. Like it's just tough to win, especially in an AFC.
Yes.
The top 4 seeds in the AFC that are playing the divisional round next weekend are the same 4 teams from last year. What do all 4 of those teams have in common?
Jesse Palmer on Heed the Call podcast said, you're playing for the 5th best team in the AFC right now. Everybody
kind of what it is.
That's a tough hurdle. I don't know. It'll be crazy to see. We could spend a whole show talking about this. Let me hit a couple more Overreaction Mondays before we get out of here. Number 2, Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen will be the first co-MVPs of the season since Peyton Manning and Steve McNair in 2003.
Oh, wow. Not an overreaction, because I love that. I think Josh Allen is the clear-cut MVP in that he's done more with less. But the argument is easy for the Lamar Jackson camp. It's look at the numbers. Nobody's ever done it. Right. Well, you're right. So I like the co-MVP because Jackson deserves it. He's got a Hall of Fame running back. Josh Allen deserves it. He is the Buffalo Bills.
Absolutely.
There is no loser in that group. No. I like the co-MVP.
I've been going through that for the last week. Like, who would I pick for MVP? And I've gone from Burrow to Lamar to back to Allen to back to Lamar. And I think this is the only way to do it because both of them are having incredible seasons. Yeah. And I can't say that Lamar's having a better season than Allen or Allen's having a better season than Lamar. Like you said, Lamar, I think he is having his best season as a passer. I think he's finally shed that, like, okay, he's a running back, not a quarterback.
Give Josh Allen Derrick Henry and look how Buffalo is, though.
And then look at what 100%. Look at what Josh Allen is doing without anybody else.
Yep.
Let me give you one more real quick before we get out of here. The Golden State Warriors hold the record for the most wins in an NBA season with a 73-9 win-loss record.
I know where you're going. Overreaction.
You don't think the Cavs are going to break the record?
No.
Why?
They're good. They're not. They don't have 3 like MVP candidates on their team. They're good. They're a solid team. They're probably better defensively than the Warriors were. But they
Next
don't
week
have
on our show,
prime-
Sean Pebbles.
Yeah, they don't have prime KD
refute
and
you.
prime Steph Curry. That's just
I'm gonna ask Sean the
know.
same question. No, I don't think so either. Because every time I pick a Cleveland team to do something good, they bomb. So I'm just trying to maybe manifest that for the city of Cleveland.
Oh, I'd love it. I'd love it. I just don't see it happening.
Me either.
They lost
Erie.
to the Pacers over the weekend.
Yeah, seriously. Thanks so much for joining us today. My name is Nick Gartman, signing off for Paul Adams, Zach, and Rich Smith. That's it. We're done. Have fun.